anyone who didn't think there weren't some people on the ground wasn't thinking very hard.
Mm,
That's the way we do wars. I mean, we did it in Syria, we do it everywhere. The UK and the US have been spinning hard about how bad the Russian casualties are, but have been very secretive about Ukrainian casualties. So that's part of it. The second part, I think, that's the most concerning is the Ukrainians are running out of air defense missiles. Their air defenses are pretty much based on Soviet S-300s, and obviously they can't get more S-300 missiles. So that's a problem. And the West doesn't have a lot of air defense to provide. So that's part of the anxiety. If they are going to plan this big counteroffensive
mm,
late spring, early summer, they're going to need more air defense and need it quickly. So those are the two things that struck me the most,
mm.
though obviously it's all very embarrassing. And obviously the Pentagon's running around trying to turn the faucet and stop the leak because nobody knows how much more is really out there.
And the suggestion that special forces from various countries, including the UK, might be present in Ukraine is something which I guess a lot of us could have guessed, but to see it in black and white on a document that purports to be a top secret
Mhm.
Pentagon intelligence file, is that actually damaging to how the West deals with Russia in the war going forward?
My assumption is no, simply because anyone who didn't think there weren't some people on the ground wasn't thinking very hard.
Mm,
That's the way we do wars. I mean, we did it in Syria, we do it everywhere. I don't know who these people are. They're not identified as special forces so much as they are just personnel. They could be helping with targeting, they could be helping with training. My guess is they're dealing with the more sophisticated weaponry. And again, no one's admitting it, right? So we see it. They're always claiming, there's lots of falsification, but I wouldn't be surprised, really. I mean, and I don't think anyone engaged in this war
mm.
would be terribly surprised. But 50 people is not a brigade, so I don't think it would surprise the Russians very much either.
How how problematic is it for the West though to have some of their internal divisions laundered in public, as it appears to be the case? Because there's detail in some of these files suggesting unease in the highest ranks of South Korea's government about where their shells might be used, which are meant to be banned for the US, but they worry that could end up being used in Ukraine, and also some insight into the West relationship with Viktor Orban as well.
Yes, all that's true. I mean, again, it's in a way confirmation of the strains that have come out in different kinds of reporting, but it's always different when you see it from official documents. I think
Mm,
the South Korean thing is particularly interesting, partly because, they're very good allies. They're very important allies. They are facing a nuclear armed North Korea that seems a bit crazy. So they depend a lot on the United States. There's a lot of troops there, of course, still. And the fact that we're listening in to their government deliberations, again, I don't think will surprise them, but it is deeply
mm,
embarrassing. Part of what's embarrassing is um, how deeply the US has gotten engaged either through personal intelligence or more likely through signals intelligence, probably with the help of GCHQ, by the way, to get deep into the Russian military, into the South Korean government and other governments. Uh, Now, a lot of this analysis is at low to moderate judgment. I mean, not all of it's firm, not all of it's accurate, but what's accurate is what the Ukrainians have, what they need, how many have been killed, how many
mm.
have been wounded. Same on the Russian side. It's pretty granular and I would say fascinating as much as embarrassing.
Yeah, and fascinating, and also has, well, some of it at least purports to have quite a high level of top secret classification. how on earth are we
Yes.
actually reading this? The suggestion seems to be that it's been kicking around on the internet for a matter of weeks or months on some gaming website, but can that really be the case?
Well, it seems to be really the case, which raises the very interesting question of who did this.
Hmm.
I mean, the screenshots I've seen about 50 of them. I think there are now more, have been photographed on what looks like a hunting magazine. So this would give you some idea of perhaps of where this person's interests are. And part of the concern is that the US is so polarized politically that this may be kind of a disaffected person inside the defense establishment who is, let's say, more of a Trumpian supporter,
Hmm.
an America firster who just thinks we're doing too much inside Ukraine. Or it could be a pile of papers that simply were found. It's very rare to have all these things printed out this way.
Yeah.
So my guess is that will help the authorities figure out where they came from. Now, who leaked them and why, that's a big mystery,
Yeah.
I have to say.